Hey, you guys. Oh, I don't even want to do this podcast, but I mean, I do, but it's another hard show. We just had our third miscarriage last week. So, I've kind of gone back and forth. I haven't gone back and forth actually. I've made a commitment to myself and to you guys because I know how many women have been through it. Every time I talk about my baby journey, so many of you guys reach out with amazing advice and suggestions and stories, all kinds. And so I want to keep doing it. I want to keep being transparent. Just it's so hard. It like hurts so much, and the disappointment is so deep. And then, um, I'm also an eternal optimist, and I just keep doing my meditations every day, and I envision my healthy second baby. And there's a part of me that just knows deep down, like however the journey is, like we will have more kids. But yeah. So you guys know the miscarriage I had this summer was like very devastating because it was at 14 weeks. The baby had stopped growing at 11 weeks and a few days, and I'd actually gone for a 12-week sonogram. This would have been back like end of July. And at the 12-week, I went to a sonogram in Maine, and the woman was like, "Well, you still have a heartbeat," and she was having a hard time like getting a measurement on the baby. But they were like, "You need to follow up with your doctor, but things look okay." Okay. Then within like a few days, the baby had passed. And by the time I got back to LA, like a week later, the baby had already passed, like I said, but it was like 10 days later, even almost 2 weeks, because I think it was like 14-week mark or very close. When I had that miscarriage, I had a DNC procedure. I had to go to like the outpatient outlet, have the baby be put under, all that. So, and I had gotten pregnant naturally, like end of May, or around in May. I don't know the timeline. Like, someone can figure that out. But anyway, so I did that podcast. It was very emotional. It was really sad. I felt like that whole pregnancy that there was really something wrong. I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's something that didn't feel right about it. So we had that. We made an appointment with an IVF doctor, a new IVF doctor who I like a lot. And she said she did a sonogram. So I had the DNC like August, very first, like August 2nd, had my period in 1st of September. And I saw her like the last couple of days of the period. So she's like, "You have a lot of follicles for somebody 41. Like, let's try to see if we can get you pregnant," because her theory, the IVF doctor's theory, was that basically I was ovulating too late, the eggs were overcooked, and the chromosomally they had issues. So we did I did like she monitored, I had whatever 16 follicles. I did the little pregnancy, the strips that and what's the app? Again, Angie Goff from Fox 5 DC turned me on to this app, and it's so great. It's actually free. You can pay for like a form of it, but you actually don't really need to, and it's so accurate. Pre-mom, download the pre-mom app, and you can buy the ovulation strips on Amazon. They're so easy to use. You just like pee on them, or you dip them in your pee in a little cup, and it tells you when you're ovulating. So I monitored that. And then the IVF doc said, I'm going to have you do 2 shots of Lupron. I was so proud of myself. Lupron forces you to ovulate, and hopefully you get better eggs, right? Better egg quality. It won't let you like wait, or my body anyway, because it was ovulating late. It won't let me ovulate late, right? So I was so proud of myself. I gave myself these 2 Lupron injections in my belly, like right below my belly button. So easy. I was like, okay, I'm going to be a nurse. Like, podcast, also nursing. And then like probably 4 days later, I guess a couple days later, they tested my progesterone. I guess your progesterone levels need to be over 10. Mine was like 11, but they were like, we want it to be a little higher. So we're going to give you these vaginal 200 milligram twice a day, Lupron, progesterone deposits, right? I'm looking at them right here. Yeah. Progesterone deposits. Okay. So I start putting those in my vag twice a day, very easy. And like no side effects to these things, except for like a little bit of constipation. But then like 2 weeks after that, I take a pregnancy test. I'm pregnant. Okay. This would have been like October 2nd, right? So she does an HCG draw. She's like, your HCG is really high. And by the way, I guess, what does HCG really do? Does it prove anything? Because it doesn't really seem to matter, I don't think, right? You all are like far more experts listening to this than I am. So anyway, the estrogen was high and she's like, all right, I want you to come back a week later for another estrogen draw. We did that, or HCG draw. Sorry. I'm like all over the place. The HCG was like 900 and something. Like the very first day I found out I was pregnant, she's like, I think you're having twins. Got very excited. Then like a week later, it was high, but it wasn't like off the charts. And then she said, you're going to come in after that at 6 weeks. We're going to see how things are looking. So we went for 6 weeks. We saw this little faint little heartbeat, and she's like, okay, she's like, I think things are good, but I don't know for sure that this is a good egg. And then we were supposed to have an 8-week follow-up, which we did last week, the day before I went to BravoCon, and there was no heartbeat. And she's like, I'm really sorry. There is no heartbeat. The baby stopped growing at 7 weeks and 2 days. So, obviously like disappointment and moments of sadness and, don't try to have a kid over 40 really is like the message of these. If you've learned anything from me, right? Like, why didn't I take people's advice years ago? So I wanted to just share this podcast episode because obviously I know this journey is one that is like difficult and many people are going through, and it's really emotional. I don't know if maybe it just hasn't hit me or maybe the hormone levels weren't as high this time around. It hadn't really got started. So I'm not as like emotional about it. Or I guess in a way I'm sad. And Dan and I have had these really sad moments over this because every time I'm such an optimist, every time I get pregnant, I'm like, this is it. This is the one, like, it's going to be great. I got really excited. I thought this is terrific. Like if she's optimistic, I'm optimistic. And now I won't have to spend $75,000, on IVF and egg donor treatments. And we're going to buy a house, right? Because I don't have to cut into my down payment on a home. Wrong, bitch. Look, the clarity that I have and Dan and I have around this after this one is we've given it a go with our own eggs. Like we've given it a go, and Dan's sperm has been tested. Like a lot of people ask me that. Dan's sperm has been tested. But just being over 40, right? Your egg quality, it does do a deep dive. It really, they're not lying. So here's what I need your advice about, guys. I am at a crossroads of I'm going to be 42 in February. And no, like I used to lie about my age, but now I love it. I'm so happy to be 40. It feels amazing. So this is it. I need to decide if I'm going to do one round of IVF. Our insurance does not cover any IVF coverage. Okay. It doesn't. I've called, I'm a part of SAG-AFTRA union. They're striking. It might be nice if they strike too, as well for health insurance. Like, how is it that we have like a huge union and no coverage on IVF? But anyway, that's where I'm at. So we have no coverage on IVF or of course, like egg donor, right? So I'm debating. I need your advice. Did anyone attempt, if I do IVF, I'm very clear on these things. If I do an IVF, it would be literally one round. I'm only doing one round. It's like 20 grand out here, 20,000, I think 20,000. I would only attempt like one time. And maybe I'm a good I haven't met with my IVF doctor. The other thing that's happening is they actually are going to do genetic testing on this fetus. The fetus this summer somehow the signals got crossed with doctors and they didn't test the fetus for any genetic abnormalities. They just tested like the placenta or what was starting to grow to make sure that there was nothing wrong with me, that they did a pathology report to make sure there wasn't any cancer. You guys know I've had a past partial molar pregnancy. So this time they're actually sending the fetus out for testing. So we'll get more information and that'll be back in like 3 weeks, right? I'll know more about what's really going on. But I have two decisions to make. One, if they're like, well, you have 16 follicles, you're like a good candidate for IVF. Do I attempt one IVF cycle? And I guess that would be in January because I'm getting ready to go on vacation for like 3 weeks. It's like going to be Christmas, it's going to be Thanksgiving. Got to have another period. Like, I think it takes a second. I'm so curious about IVF. I really haven't paid much attention. So were you 41 and did one round of IVF and had success? Because the statistics are quite low on that. Like IVF is like super successful if you're under 40. When you're over 40, the women I know have done, they fall in two camps. I know women that have done like multiple cycles. I'm talking like 4, 5, 6, and they've gotten their baby. They've gotten their baby. I mean, they've had a healthy child, but I mean, it hasn't been like most of them. It's not a one-time They don't over 40. They don't have a one-time IVF cycle and then get healthy eggs. I mean, is there any advice you'd give me if I did pursue one round of IVF? The drug protocols you used, did you do one and you were successful? And again, I mean, I'm almost going to be 42. So, we are at a crossroads of if we try IVF, and I think the only thing like that comes up for me is like, will I regret not trying? You know what? Will I regret not trying one round of IVF? Because if I do one round of IVF and no good eggs come back and make it to blastocyst or whatever, or make it to blast, I guess, as they say, then I feel like, well, I tried, like, all right, I tried, I'm 42, but also it's like, how long does a round of IVF take? Is it like 2 months? Is the process 2 months, or is it literally 1 month? And then if you have a good egg, you can transfer like a couple months later. Because I'm also at the point of, I'm going to be 42. I don't want to say waste, but do I want to spend 4 or 5 months playing around with one round of IVF? Or do I just want to go to egg donor where your success rate? First of all, I think for women like 42, the success rate of a embryo, of like a frozen healthy embryo, egg donor being implanted is like 70 to 85% stick. And then I think you have 60% in a lot of high-end clinics of like having a live birth, like the child. So it's like that, those numbers are like 10 times it seems like IVF. I'd love to hear more of your egg donor stories. When I did this podcast this summer, I had said to myself, that miscarriage, I was like, I'm done. I'm moving on to egg donor. And then you get in there with these damn IVF doctors and they go, well, you're in great health and you've got a lot of follicles. You ought to give it a go. Okay. And I know they're learning your body too. Like part of it, it's science. It's not a 100% proof, no one size doesn't fit all. What works for one person doesn't work always for the other person. So they're learning about your body every time they do these procedures. So I guess, did you do one round of IVF at 41, 42 and it worked? Would you recommend that? Or do you think just going on to an egg donor? And I think in a way, the other thing that I have to take into account is I really want 2 kids. People are like, you couldn't have thought of this when you were 25. I'm like, no, I hated children at 25 now. I mean, I literally, when I turned 35, my biological clock kicked in. I hated kids prior to that. But seeing my brother have my niece and how much joy she's brought into our lives. And then turning 35, I was like, I have to have a kid. And now, I mean, all I want to do is be a mom. All I want to do is be a mother. Like I'd be thrilled to be a stay-at-home mom now and make sourdough bread, because apparently I don't even know how to like cultivate a sourdough like stem. It's like so difficult. I love being a mother. So part of me wants to have 2 more kids. So it's like, if you want to have 2 more children, isn't going to egg donor the way to go? Because I could have one at 42 and then again at 44. But there's just that one little inkling in me that's like, but this is the thing though. Isn't this the crazy part about your baby journey? If any of you are listening to this, many of you I know that have had like, any sort of fertility struggle. It's like, you always think that your body is not going to be the body that lets you down. Does that make sense? Like, does anyone think that? Like, I do read all the statistics. I read all the statistics. They ain't good over 40. Okay. And what I read now is you always hear about all the positive outcomes, because people can't wait to tell you all the good news, which is great. That's the way life should be. That's why you hear like these moms at 43, they get pregnant naturally. But you really don't hear a lot of people go on and share all the disappointment and the heartache and how hard it was and how many losses they had, because it's hard for people to talk about. So a lot of that isn't amplified, and all the positive is, which I don't want to like be like, I'm not criticizing either one. I don't think either one is good or bad. I'm just saying that's sort of informationally what's out there. And I feel like, 16 follicles. I mean, I had to give it a go. Like, I mean, but then I think, okay, I've had my body, like, cause I'm thinking to myself, I'm so healthy. Like my body's not going to let me down. Like I'm going to do this IVF. It's going to I'm going to produce 28 eggs. And I'm thinking to myself, Sarah, wait a sec. Your body is like, you've had a molar pregnancy. Thank God for my body. It survived that, a hemorrhage. You had to wait 9 months. I mean, I did try to start earlier having a kid at 37, but I had to wait almost an entire 9-month cycle before I could have KJ. Turned 38 and had him at 39. I mean, I lost a year really with that. then my body, hasn't been able to produce a healthy egg. And I don't know, I mean, maybe we'll find out something else is going on, but Dan and I have both had genetic testing. Neither one of us are carriers for the same thing. I keep up on all my doctor's appointments. I mean, everything seems healthy. I feel healthy otherwise. I mean, pray to God. So what would you do if you were me? Like, give me your advice. Confuse me more. Let me sift through it. Would you try one round of IVF at 41, almost 42, dolls? That's the problem, because after 42, IVF doesn't really work. I mean, it does if you have a ton of money. I mean, if you get a ton of money to play and you can do $150,000 in treatments, you can probably get one or two good eggs. But this is my other question to all you IVF warriors out there. I also read over 40, even if you get a good egg, right? So, okay, let's say I did IVF and I get 28 eggs, and then you keep dividing in half, right? So, what's that? 13 of the eggs, 14 of the eggs are good, or whatever, make it to the next stage. Anyway, let's say we get down to I have 4 good ones or 3 good ones, right? I also read that even implanting them is even if they are highly graded, they're good. They don't have any abnormalities. It's not that easy to get them to stick. Is that right? And then even getting them to stick, people have these chemical pregnancies, or it's hard. It's only a 50% chance that they go all the way to a live birth for most of these IVF clinics. When I look at the SARTs, there's a website with the CDC that shows you fertility clinics, their success rates. And, the highest one in the state of California is San Francisco. That's why I was going to go there earlier this summer before I got pregnant. That guy now is retired, and their clinic still gets about 60%, but it's I don't know. Do I try? You know what I mean? It's so, I know you guys know, because if you're going through it, there's a lot of factors. But I don't think I'm going to go to San Francisco. I think if I did anything, I would stay local because of the monitoring. I think I would just give it a go maybe once. But even if you give it a go at 41, 42, and then they transfer, let's say, a good egg, it's still hard, right? I think there's still a fair amount of, because just the egg is older. All right. Okay, this sucks. I went to BravoCon right after I had the DNC. I did a DNC in the office. Has anyone ever had one of those? That was an experience. In the OBGYN's office. I'm in love with my OBGYN. If you're in Los Angeles and you want a good one, I will DM me. I'll tell you about him. He's amazing. He has a great sense of humor. He's personality. He jokes. He's one of those doctors that, a lot of doctors have zero personality. This guy's he's very funny. So he goes, all right, I go and I have the sonogram in the morning. He said, come on in. I'm going to put the seaweed sticks in your vagina, which dilate your cervix so they can do the DNC easier. So, he goes, we're going to do it in office at the end of the day. I'm just going to give you this Valium shot, and it will be fine. I'm excuse me, I'll be awake. He's yeah. He's 90% of patients don't even remember the procedure. I just give you a shot. The procedure is 10 minutes because I wasn't very far along. I'm what? What in the, what? I'm going to be awake? But I trust him. He's been doing it a long time. And he was right. They did that Valium shot. Honey, I don't remember a darn thing. It was easy. It wasn't really it was a little mini IV. They put that Valium in, and within a couple seconds, I don't remember a dingle dangle thing. And it was good. So I went to BravoCon and cheered myself up. And I am on a journey now. At first I thought, okay, it's a little bit of a journey because we've been trying now for over a year. You guys, I'm sure remember this. We started last September and nothing happened for a while. And then we've had these 2 pregnancies. So we've certainly given it, I can tell you with great certainty now, with very good clarity, I ain't trying on my own anymore. And I know people will message me and go, well, I've had 4 miscarriages at 42 or 44, and then the 5th one. Some people have it in them. They're true pregnancy warriors. But I'm just not that person. We did it with our own. We did it natural. We've tried it. It ain't working. And I don't want to keep knocking on that door. So it's next step. And what should it be? Should it be a 1 round of IVF, or do you just go to egg donor and you don't look back? All right. So a bit of a depressing episode today, but I feel I'm not as emotional about it. And I don't know why that is. I guess maybe just, I don't know. I feel like now it's truly a journey. I feel like I'm literally like, I just gotta keep my eye on the prize. And like I do this meditation. You guys know I did a astrology course with Deborah Silverman, who's fantastic. It's called Level 1 Astrology with Deborah Silverman. She was fan freaking tastic. And I learned about my rising sign and your signs are in different elements. There's the water element and earth and fire. And they all have things to do with your personality. So Deborah had said to me, you really need to do a water meditation because the opposite of air, my life is in air, a lot of ideas, a lot of personality. But water is kind of the counterintuitive element to air and helps balance. And I just keep thinking in my meditation, like it's a marathon. It's a marathon. And every doctor's appointment is like a mile marker. Like I just see myself. Is this beginning to seem like a really weird movie? But I envision myself just like I'm like a cross country, I'm on a cross country journey and I'm just like every mile marker and I can see at the end this like beautiful baby and it all coming together. And I see these little 3 babies because I might just have one more and then foster to adopt. Again, this is the air element. Okay. I'm all over the place. Bear with me. But I see these 3 kids and I just got to keep my eye on the prize. I just got to keep my eye on the prize, keep myself calm, keep myself on my health journey. Don't go wild and go on a drinking and smoking binge. It's a little hard to do when you have a 2.5-year-old and a husband who likes to be like, excuse me, are you? What are you? Schman's the most amazing partner, but. So I am emotional at times about it, but I am realistic about it because I do know I waited and I do know, and I can't say that. I mean, I did try starting at 37 and if everything had gone well, I would have had 2 kids by 40, but that just wasn't my path. So I know I'm on a different path now and I'm wondering, do I explore that IVF or do I just go for the highest probability of a healthy birth the soonest and do the egg donor? Oh, by the way, I need to thank a sponsor. Isn't that weird in the middle of this? I know, but anyway, that's my life. Guys, can you help me make the next big pivotal decision of my life and my future baby? And by the way, this is brought to you by Honeylove. Honeylove.com/TSFS. Honeylove is known for their amazing bras. Aren't you tired of owning a bra or shapewear that you get home at the end of the day and you want to take it off? Not with Honeylove. And you're getting 50% off this month only. When it comes to shapewear, Honeylove's best-selling Superpower Short, which I just got, is a go-to. I have so much of their shapewear and their bras. It was targeted compression technology that distinguishes between areas where you want more support and areas you need less compression. Their Signature X targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves. Plus, the best part is it won't ever roll up or down to be flexible, like hidden in your seams and all that. Like I hate when that starts rolling. Well, no, it stays in place. It feels great. And the shapewear makes you look amazing. This month only, Honeylove is giving you, my Sarah Fraser Show listeners, 50% off site-wide. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear. I have so many of them and I appreciate Honeylove, who's been a longtime sponsor. Thanks to you guys. On the market, you can save up to 50% off site-wide right now at honeylove.com/TSFS. This month only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon. So don't miss their best deals of the year. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about Honeylove from. Please tell them the Sarah Fraser Show. It means so much. It's time to ditch the underwear for good, thanks to Honeylove. Honeylove.com/TSFS for 50% off. I look forward to reading your emails and messages. You guys can always find me at the Sarah Fraser Show on Instagram, probably the best place to DM. My email is thesarahfrasershow@gmail.com as well. All right. Bye, everybody.